Okay, I understand. So the markets are definitely moving today without question. Tell me, what are you thinking? Okay. All right. And what are you feeling? All right. Right. That's very normal. And what are you doing? I'm Mike Freemire. I'm a behavioral financial advisor. My job literally is to have those conversations on a regular basis, hopefully not quite as intense, but those conversations about helping people to understand what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're doing in that order. If we do this, we find ourselves in a position where we make better decisions. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy what I do and I enjoy working with clients. It's about helping them to understand what they truly want out of their investment and financial life and what their goals are generally in life and how those two things or three things come together to really make a difference in their world. Long term, it pays off tremendously. While we can't guarantee tomorrow is bright and the markets aren't crashing or the markets aren't soaring, we can guarantee that there will always be volatility and there will always be change. That's one of the things I like about my job. There's always volatility, there's always change, and I have the opportunity to work with great people. Let me give you a little bit of background. What I love doing is working with really interesting people, helping them to understand what we can do as a behavioral financial advisor in helping them to reach their goals, not only just financially, but how that intertwines, how that relates to meeting all their life's goals, whether that be a second home, buying a home, different cars, sending kids to college, providing funding for grandchildren, making sure that you never run out of money, or doing our very best to make sure we maximize that which you have. What I like about the behavioral financial advisor model is it mixes traditional finance with psychology and then the neuroscience of the brain. And that's why we ask those three questions in that order on a regular basis. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? And what are we doing? Because our brain wants to do something different, a different order than that. It wants to say, what are we feeling? What are we doing? What are we thinking? And normally what are we thinking afterwards is to somehow justify what we've already done. So we act with emotion and then we justify it with logic. And what we try to do in our discipline is to act with logic and then feel good about it. That's really the name of the game. And if we understand more about how our brain works, we can understand more about how we work and how we can work together to be able to help you accomplish your goals. I've been married for 35 years. My wife is Lori and she is a wonderful lady. We have 3 children. All grown boys, now I guess you'd call them young men, one of which is married. Just couldn't be more proud of them. The reason why I chose to be a financial advisor was because I understood very early on that if I was going to meet my goals, frankly, for my family, I was no different than anybody else. So we established a framework very early of what are our goals in our family, what are our goals generally speaking in our careers, what are our goals? What do we really like to do? What do we value the most? And frankly, what I value the most is being able to help people and being able to share experiences with them and help them to do things differently. Help them to think, feel, and do in that order. So unlike what we had at the beginning, where I'm on the phone call with what at the time was a new client who was feeling, wanting to do, and then we would think about it, we can bring that down a notch, make calm, level-headed decisions. And that's what I enjoy most about what I do. We use the smart money philosophy. Now that may not necessarily mean much to a client, but when we put it in real simple terms, that we're preparing for the certainty of uncertainty. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Frankly, we don't know what the next trip to the grocery store is going to bring. We hope it brings good food at low prices, but it doesn't necessarily preclude us from having an auto accident, running out of gas, having car trouble, having something happen where we forgot our list, even something as simple as that, our list of groceries, we forgot it. Have you ever been there? Well, that's the certainty of uncertainty. Plan as we may, we can't necessarily guarantee we're going to have everything work out exactly as what we'd hoped for. Now, you've probably heard many people speak of emotional intelligence, and that is understanding or knowing what's happening in the world. In other words, how do I feel about it? How would other people feel about it? Perhaps as something is happening, or you can predict, if I say this, then they will act in a certain way. That's emotional intelligence. Emotional competence is understanding, what should I be doing? Not what can I do. Just because I can do it doesn't mean I should. But what should I be doing? And how is that going to affect others? And understanding we don't just live in a bubble. We in fact live among our families, our friends, our co-workers, and the community at large. Along the lines of emotional intelligence and emotional competence, there are some key strategies and some key elements that one needs to understand within the smart money philosophy or principles. You need to understand that saving money, I know it sounds like I'm, repeating what my grandmother used to tell me. Saving money is very important. Put a dime away today and it'll become 20 cents tomorrow. That's the hope. Okay? Grandma wasn't wrong. Saving money is incredibly important. But diversifying those assets, taking that penny and putting it into a piggy bank, well, it's a good habit to begin with. But diversifying the assets and understanding where there's the greatest probability and the hope for making money in the future is something that we do every day. It's part of the smart money philosophy. What we try to do is balance risk with reward, and also, and more importantly, with what is, and we hear this a lot of times about tolerance of risk or risk tolerance. That being said, balancing that information it's very difficult in the heart because it keeps you awake at night. What we try to do is we try to formalize this, and as simple as what it may sound, it is incredibly useful. We try to help people come to 5 values that are most important to them. Now, if we were to go out and ask people, what do you really value? We'll probably find commonality among common people, okay? Birds of a feather flocking together. But what we try to do is we bring in, now I'm going to exit stage right here for just a moment. Well, if you look here, there are roughly 50 cards in this particular deck, okay? And in this deck, it goes anywhere from friendship to ethics, security, excellence. So let's just take excellence as an example. If you want to pursue excellence in all that you do, that means something different perhaps to you than what it does to others. And perhaps what you pursue in excellence may be a technical excellence, and it requires additional, say for example, it requires additional training. So that requires more education, that requires various seminars and perhaps travel in order to do that. If friendship, as an example, happens to be one of the things that you or you and your spouse value, well, it's easy to keep in touch today through various video conferencing platforms or other messaging platforms. But really, friendship is fostered and maintained and grows by going out and actually seeing people. So what does it take in order to, if friendship is one of the things you value, what are the financial things we need to put in place in order for you to do that? I think you get the idea. Adventure comes up randomly. I can look here. Fame, what does it take in order to be famous? I actually have a few clients where, actually have one client I should say, where their daughter literally spent about 8 months out in Los Angeles because, well, she was going to be famous. She wanted to be in the movie industry. She's now back at school, and that adventure they'd planned for. And so rather than just being something about helping the daughter learn about what she was really capable of doing and learn about what opportunities are really there, she was actually able to do that without causing a financial hardship to the family because we'd planned for that. So how do we bring all this together? We bring it all together in the full financial framework. It's a process that we use when we first meet clients. What we try to do is understand their values and their goals. But more importantly, we try to understand how are we going to come to consensus? What are the ground rules? What makes sense? What is my job? What is your job? What is our job collectively? Pull out a piece of paper right now and let's talk about what is in your full circle right now from a financial perspective. So what is that car or mortgage payment? What does that upcoming tax bill look like? What does your tuition bill look like for your child or children? Your car payment. What accidentals, oopsidentals, and incidentals do you see coming around the corner that are going to impact you? And how are you going to think about that? How are you going to feel about that? And what are you going to do about that? Second question, who is in your full circle? Who is it? Who do you talk to? Who's impacted by your financial decisions? Who's impacted by what you value? Who's impacted by decisions and movements that you make, whether that's in your portfolio, whether that's in your daily life, whether that's I'm working overtime or I'm not working overtime, or I'm going to take on this special project, or if I own a business, I'm going to try to expand. What does that look like for you? And who's impacted? Ultimately, who's in a position where, based on the decision you make, you are going to change somebody's world? Who is it? You're included in there as well. Third and final question. Who is going to give you an objective third-party, educated opinion regarding what's in your best interest? So who do you trust and how do you get there? We'll answer that during our next video. We'll see you there.